All right, everyone. I'm trying something new today here on the Kim Jacobs Show. And it's exciting because we get a chance to formally also share this with our Instagram audience. So grab your virtual seats and let's get ready to have a great time. Mackenzie's backstage and she's like, look, I did what I was supposed to do. I already clicked the intro video and everything. And we have with us today, Laura. Laura, how are you today?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me on the show, Kim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. And we've had a lot of time to talk backstage, just for us to just literally get to know each other a little bit. And I am so thrilled, everyone, to have Laura here with us today. You're going to be in for a tremendous treat and you will learn some great information. So go ahead and grab your virtual seats and let everybody you know tune in to today's episode right here on the Kim Jacobs Show. Now, what I'm going to do is play the intro since I cut it off a few minutes ago, and then we'll be ready to kick this episode off today. So, Mackenzie, if you can, go ahead and play the intro one more time backstage. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm very grateful that you took the time to tune in to today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Listen, we have a great show lined up for you. I'm your host, Kim Jacobs, better known as the Balance Doctor. And all of our guests that come on, they're either people that have overcome some tremendous odds in their own lives as they balance this thing called life, or they're experts and they're here to share tips and strategies that will help you better balance and manage your life. Grab your virtual seats and let's get ready for some real relevant and relatable content on today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Hey, it kind of works out to be able to come on for a few seconds and say hello to my guests for the episode and then go to the intro. You never know. You might have sparked a change here, Laura, you know?
Well, that's what it's all about, getting uncomfortably comfortable with change.
Oh, you know what? That right there already sums up the show. Anytime we can get comfortable with uncomfortable change, life can always be better because change is inevitable. It's something that's going to happen and it's a constant. Some things are within our control. Some things are way outside of our control, like all of these natural disasters and deaths and things that's happening across the land, protests. It's a lot happening and that's beyond our control.
That's right. That's right. And the more we can balance ourselves and understand ourselves, the better we can have compassion for everything else that's going on in our world.
I need you in my life, Laura. See, that's what I'm saying. All right. Let me introduce Laura to everyone here today. Laura is a whole lot to her, and she's going to be talking about that throughout this hour. But I'm going to give you just a little bit. And please tell me if I'm pronouncing the dash properly. Is it Nechaneki?
Nechaneki Booth.
Nechaneki. I should ask that backstage. Okay, Laura Nechaneki. Laura Nechaneki Booth, MSLMFT CEC, is a licensed marriage and family therapist. And she is also a certified crisis trainer and a leading certified Enneagram coach. She specializes specifically in life, marriage, leadership coaching, and she's very passionate about helping her clients build deeper relationships through the power of Enneagram. And so I am excited because all of the different groups that she's worked with, ranging from individuals, couples, veterans, first responders, we're going to talk about that today, and their families in over her 20 years in practice. So I'm not going to say everything that's on her bio because I really want you to hear it directly from her. Welcome to the Kim Jacobs Show, Laura.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and be here with our audience and kind of help everyone grow into being the best versions of themselves, whether that's personally or professionally. It's an honor.
That's great. Now, my question already is, what made you so passionate about having people form these deeper relationships?
I think it kind of started just even from my own personal development and growth. I really started to realize from an early age that there were certain things that I was doing in my life that I really didn't understand about myself that was holding me back. And I've always wanted connection, and connection has always been really important to me. And I've always wanted to build a connection, but there was something inside me that was holding me back. I was always kind of, finding myself kind of being very behind the scenes kind of a thing. And it is through kind of just having my own internal process and my own internal work, understanding the motivations behind my own behaviors, that I really it was like light bulbs were going up. Oh man, that's why I do what I do. And that's really, it's interesting to me how sometimes the thing that we think we're doing to get what we want, we actually get the exact opposite. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like my natural instinct is to kind of shy away from conflict, or I'm always striving for internal peace and this balance, right? In a world that is completely unbalanced. And so my natural tendency is to back away, is to retreat, kind of protect myself in a protective way. But that just pushes people away. That doesn't give me connection in a sense. So I really need to push myself to put myself out there, put myself into sometimes situations where I'm putting myself out there, I'm meeting people, I'm getting to know people and building connection, because it's all about that relationship. And you cannot have a relationship without integrating, having a conversation, even if it's hard conversations, and even if those conversations create conflict.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because exactly the opposite of what you're attempting to bring into your world, into your atmosphere, sometimes happens, and you're learning why that's happening. So when you were in your younger years, did you have difficulty connecting with people, whether it be in school, family, friends, organizations? Any difficulty that you were experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was, always afraid to kind of put myself out there, just never really knowing. I was afraid of being judged, always afraid of kind of what people were thinking about me, always kind of feeling a sense that I was never really good enough.
Mm.
And that kind of deterred me from kind of pursuing, different things. It wasn't even that I was getting those messages from necessarily family or anything like that. It was just kind of like, it was a part of who I was, in a sense, just kind of a part of my personality, that I was more concerned about keeping everybody else around me
Hmm.
peace, in what I thought was peace. And I thought that that's what would make me happy and make me feel connected to people. But it really didn't. It never really filled that void of having like a really deep or connection with people.
Mhm.
Um, because ultimately, sometimes to create, a deeper connection, you have to be vulnerable. You can't stay surfacey, and you can't just talk about surface issues and use the term, like, I had literally had to ban the word fine out of my vocabulary kind of
What
growing
was
up.
that word again? Say it again.
Like, how are you? Typically people say, how are you?
Oh,
And the answer
fine,
was,
fine.
I'm fine. Well, there's a
Hmm.
whole other sector of
Yes.
emotions that we really are other than fine. It's kind of like a social norm for us to say that. But I really had to challenge myself to, am I really fine? No, I'm really not fine. I'm sad today. I'm angry today. I'm, upset. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. I'm excited. We're so much more than fine, in
Oh,
that sense.
okay.
And
So you recommend that we
I
be
recommend that. I recommend that people take fine out of their vocabulary in like a social setting. And I challenge individuals and couples to really ask themselves, how really am I? Build up that emotional intelligence within you, because we're so much more than that. There's much more depth to every individual. And we're so many things in a given day. You may wake up feeling excited and, ready to go, but by midday, you're slumping and you need a little caffeine or
right,
something
right.
like that. And you've got so much to push through. So the
That's
more aware you are at in terms of, just even the course of a day, the better you're able to find what you need, ask for that, and regulate those emotions. If we're just living life, kind of reactivity wise
right.
based on your emotions, it's really a struggle to kind of feel a sense of balance and control in our life, because we're just at the whim of whatever emotions we're feeling, but we're not identifying what those emotions are.
As we're talking, because we clearly don't have scripted questions, I'm hearing so many different components because, like you say, a lot of people live almost by just their emotions. This is what I feel like for the moment. How do you pull that back into subjection to say that is just because that's how you feel does not mean that that's the way you should be behaving in this particular situation.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to just kind of helping people understand um, emotions in general. A lot of people, we grow up with kind of knowing like the basics: mad, sad, glad, happy, and
Right.
that's it. But there's so much more to kind of an emotions wheel in a sense.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I think that it's helpful for people to understand, um, like how emotions really work. Like you can be really angry at something, but that doesn't give us the right to act out behaviorally in a certain way, slamming
Mhm,
doors, punching walls, all of
mhm,
that thing.
mhm.
So our anger may be justified. Like you may have a right, everybody has a right to feel how they feel, but is the behavior justified in that feeling? So like having like being angry, you can be justified in being angry, if someone betrayed you, if
Of course.
you're a friend didn't take accountability for their actions, or I mean, like all kinds of things can make us angry, someone not doing something that we wanted them to do.
Right.
um but how we behave is much different. So we can talk about, I'm feeling really angry, I'm upset about this, I need this. That is kind of a better way of dealing with those emotions, rather than just like I said, punching walls, yelling, raising our voice. Like it may make us feel good in the moment because it releases that energy, that tension. That anger usually brings up energy. However, the long-term consequences are far greater, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
It
So
makes a lot of sense.
the behavioral outcome of yelling and screaming, we may feel guilty and very shameful for our behavior, even though our anger was justified. And had
Mm.
we recognized I'm really angry because of X, Y, and Z, now we can recognize that, accept that, and we can communicate that appropriately rather than acting out reactivity wise based on those emotions that we're having, even if the emotion is justified.
Oh, okay, yeah. And everything you're saying is just flowing so effortlessly, right? But when it comes time to formally implement some of these things, people are, and I'm just saying people in general are struggling with not choosing what their go to response is. Because in life, we know it's 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we react to it. I heard that from Keith Harrell. I don't know who the original source is, but that's true. It's 10% really what happens, but how we respond and behave and react to it is 90%. That's what we need to really gain control of.
Exactly. It is really true. And I think the biggest thing is, helping people, first of all, be aware of
Mhm.
all of this stuff that is going on, and kind of, again, like I bring up that vulnerability, recognizing, oh crap, I do that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we don't like to admit, like our blind spots and our faults and the things that are kind of true for us. But once that is illuminated, it really can be empowering
Yeah.
to help us do something different. If we don't know what we're doing, if we're not willing to admit what we're
Right.
doing, we have a really hard time making changes. And you have to remember that our brains are primed for survival and story. We are, like our whole capacity is to survive in this world. And even if the truth isn't really true, that's why,
Right.
in terms of like anxiety and trauma and things like that, it feels like there is a tiger attacking you, but there is no tiger there. you
Right.
know
It's an illusion. It's
it's
a
the illusion. It's a
metaphor.
story. Yes, it's a story that we create and that our instinctual brain is creating in us to protect us and keep us safe. So I always try to remember people, our behaviors are there for a reason. They're trying to protect us from something.
Mhm.
We need to kind of take a look at kind of illuminating what that something is so we can have better capacity to know how to handle that and deal with that better in the future.
That's good stuff. I'm over here, just so you know, I have notes too. So if you see me over here, look, I'm a big note taker on literally everybody, just so you all know how your host operates on notebook paper. So I just have the 3-hole punch notebook paper, blank paper, and I am going for broke taking notes on things that are tremendous nuggets that our guests are sharing already. So looking at what's in our blind spot is one of the things that you just said. But at the end of the day, Les Brown says this many times over, that sometimes we don't see ourselves when we're in the picture frame because we're inside the frame. So it takes other people or Enneagram or whatever to be able to shed light on our blind spots, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the tool of the Enneagram. So the Enneagram is, you know, everybody, you know, kind of there's all kinds of personality tests out there. So the Enneagram in its essence is, you know, another personality assessment, but it is a much deeper dive because it really gets deep into why we do the things that we do. It's much different than, oh, okay, so I'm an, you know, NFIP or so, you know, something like that. You know, okay, great. You know, okay, that's good to know. Like that's an awareness piece, but
When you
the
put it up.
Enneagram is much more in depth, and it basically talks about 9 different personality types. So it gives us a viewpoint and really recognizing that, you know, whether you thought it or whether we would like it to be that way, guess what? Not everybody thinks the same way that we do. You
That's
know,
right.
not everybody. And to be honest with you, from my perspective, I'm grateful for that because, you know, another person may have a different viewpoint, a different perspective that can help me grow and expand in the things that I don't see. So I really like to use the Enneagram, but it is really just a personality assessment. The Enneagram talks about Ennea equals 9 and gram equals diagram. And it's basically a map for personal growth. And it just identifies 9 basic ways of relating and perceiving the world. It dives deep into kind of really why you think, feel, and behave in a particular way based on your core motivations. And each of the 9 personality types has a different way of dealing with the world, a different core fear, a different core desire, a different core a core weakness, and a core longing. And those are kind of the core motivations that really drive our feelings, actions, and behaviors in a way. And once we understand how each person kind of goes about thinking and feeling in the world, it really kind of can help us all better understand not only ourselves, but others. And that's really what I love about the tool is, in essence, not just building yourself and having better awareness for you. It gives you a greater range to understanding others. And then that brings in more compassion and clarity for anyone that you're working with, or, you know, someone even that you love in your personal relationship.
Well, this is something that it sounds like can be used in any walk of life, whether it be ministry. I know I'm heavily involved in church and in ministry. It also sounds like it could be used in school systems, in first responder situations, in church, in relationships, in families. You know, this is just universal.
It really is. It's a universal tool, and it's really, really in depth. You know, that's why sometimes, I mean, I really recommend people who take the Enneagram assessment dive deep into, you know, some of the books on it, because it's so much more in depth than people really realize. It goes into it, and there's instinctual subtypes. So there's 27 more personalities that can expand. So just because, like, I'm an Enneagram 9, just because someone else is an Enneagram 9, we have similarities in how we think and feel about the world, but we still have differences. We're still a unique individual. And the Enneagram kind of talks deeper in depth about that. And that's where kind of further training and resources can kind of come into play. But overall, the nuts and bolts will really help people build a better understanding about sometimes why they get stuck in certain patterns, and why they get frustrated with their loved ones getting stuck in certain patterns. And it really can help people communicate better and come into better alignment because you understand each other on a different level. Most human beings want to feel seen,
Of
heard,
course.
understood, feel belong, and have some sort of connection. And that's really what the tool kind of helps us do.
Let me put this tool up for a minute and see if you can just go, if you can just say something about each of the 9, even just brief, like 30 seconds or something, just something.
Absolutely. So I'll start with I'll go from the top. So the 9 is typically the peacemaker of sorts. So
Okay.
their core motivation is really kind of keeping peace and not being in conflict. That's their core fear. They hate tension and discord.
Yes.
Their their heart's desire is to have inner stability and peace of mind.
Okay.
Their weakness is really remaining in this unrealistic, idealistic world in order to keep that peace. So, in order to do that, they sometimes fall asleep to their own desires. They really don't like to look at or think about their own sense of anger. And their growth is really pushing themselves to show up and be seen in the world and really, really believe and trust that
Hmm.
their presence matters.
That's good. Okay.
The
Let's
type 1 is considered the moral perfectionist. I mean, there's different names for these,
right,
but
right.
this is just kind of an
This
overview.
is one that where did I get this? So I can at least acknowledge where I did receive this from. Yeah, I think this one was from brainmanager.io. So, okay, go ahead.
It can be the moral perfectionist, or sometimes it's the reformer, but they're really afraid of being wrong, being thought of as bad, being inappropriate, unredeemable, or really corruptible. So these are the people that really like black and white, right and wrong, and they have a good sense of that. So their heart's desire is to have integrity and to be good, to be balanced and accurate. And they really struggle because of that with resentment. So they oftentimes repress their anger. And that oftentimes leads to frustration and dissatisfaction with themselves and others. So they can appear more critical, but ultimately, so other people may hear a lot of criticism from them, but really they're critical of themselves. They have an inner voice inside them that is very nasty and kind of berates them. And that's kind of really hard. So their ultimate longing is to trust and know that they're good.
Well, let me just turn my glasses sideways for a minute now, Laura, because you done got me all confused over here. Because at the end of the day, I can kind of see myself in a lot of those different descriptions.
Absolutely. So, in general, we all have parts of each of the Enneagram types,
Mhm.
but there's going to be one core main type that really resonates the most with you. It's really all about those core motivations and the motivations behind why. So, yes, I have a tendency to really, to want to be good too. And I lean heavily into this one part in me at times.
Mhm.
But truly, I do not like conflict. Like, I
That's
really want and desire inner peace. And I do so much, even not recognizing it in my day to day world. And if you look back at, like my childhood and things like that, I
Mhm.
was all about keeping the peace, and trying to keep the peace. And I still do it, in ways where, things that even that I may not even like about myself. Like, I may hold off on kind of like saying no, or I may shut down and shut out because I'm afraid of something. So if I'm not aware of those things, I can't change those things. But now that I know that I do that, I can push myself to show up even in a situation that feels uncomfortable to me, and kind of have a voice in that situation rather than shutting down. So that's kind of the whole goal and the whole purpose. The Enneagram really illuminates where we go in stress and why we go there, but it also shows us a growth path and what we need to do to get ourselves back into alignment, into being that best version of ourselves.
Okay, this is good. And now I know it's 9, so we're not going to go through all of them today
Yeah.
because you can help people with this assessment. But what I also think of when I'm talking to you is when people say can't change me, you know, can't change me. And I don't know if, I don't even know, there's no question associated with that. You genuinely cannot change people. So what if you want to have this alliance with someone that's on that Richter scale over there, but for whatever reason you guys are not on the same Enneagram circle some kind of way? Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're right in the sense that our personality is our personality, but we do have levels of development when our personality. So we can be we can be a really good, we can utilize the strengths of our personality for good, or we can utilize them in ways that are not helpful to ourselves and not helpful to our relationships. And we're going to vacillate between that. Sometimes, like I said, in the course of a day, like we're human beings, we're going to make mistakes, we're not going to always be at our best. But if we understand our partner, whomever we is, whomever it is around us that has a certain personality, that's even a difficult personality to deal with, if we understand even just a smidge of why they're thinking and feeling the way that they're doing, it gives us a greater capacity to regulate ourselves in dealing with them. So, we can't control other people. We can't control what everybody else does around us, but we really can have the empowerment to control how we want to respond to that and what is good and best for us within that relationship.
I'm glad that we touched on that, because if we can worry about, or not worry, but if we could focus on what can we do in that relationship to consider the other person's personality and why they're doing, because they're not us. And so it's like we are all different individuals. So what works for me may be disastrous for someone else. And I talk about that often as the balance doctor, as you all have followed me. But it is difficult to try to also manage your own personality and outcome, but then also try to figure out what's best for somebody else. It's like you figure out what's best for you. So I don't know. I'm not the Enneagram expert. How does that work when when it
Well,
needs to work synergistically?
Well, I think what you have to realize is like different things activate different people. You're absolutely right. Like what activates you is not going to activate a different person, but you also have to recognize that sometimes we may do things that activate someone else, and so when we know that, now again, we can, so I mean, I'll just give you an example. So, like me shutting down may activate someone else because they feel like I'm, distancing myself from them. And that makes them very anxious. Okay. So, if I know that by me withdrawing, that's going to make someone more angry and
Mhm.
upset, now I can counter that by pushing myself to confront the situation with
Mm,
that particular person, especially if they're a safe person that I know, and love, then that creates a different alignment,
that's it.
so it really boils down to really recognizing and knowing, okay, this is what activates me, this is what activates you.
Mm,
What can I do differently to deactivate you? And that in turn is going to deactivate me. And around we go. So it's kind of like recognizing this is what's activating my heart. And because my heart is activated, my tendency is to behave in this way. When
okay.
I behave in this way, this is going to cause a reaction from you,
Right.
and your heart condition is going to be activated. And then you're going to behave in a certain negative way. And around we go. And we're going to be in this negative cycle.
Hmm.
But if we start with understanding, like for me, if I know that if I'm activated because I'm feeling some sort of sense of discomfort,
Right.
if I can calm my heart down and recognize the truth, it's okay. I'm safe. It's going to be fine. That makes me behave in a very different way than I would have had I believed that I don't matter, I'm not good enough, whatever it is in that situation. And because my heart is now settled, I'm going to behave differently. That's going to settle the heart of the person that I'm connecting with. And round we go in a much more aligned way.
I
So,
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
yeah.
In a much more aligned way. Anybody in the studio audience, I see on different platforms that you're clapping and doing different things. I can't put those emojis on the screen, unfortunately, but I see you tagging people as well. Mackenzie backstage, if you would pop a couple of these comments up, because these are questions probably that she would be able to address for them, or even comments that I see back there. Thank you all so much for being such active participants in the
Yes, thank
studio
you.
audience today. So let's get some of these comments up here and see what you all are saying out there. I know Mackenzie's like, I gotta find them all first. Okay, is this based on psychology or sociology from your perspective, Laura?
It's really based on more of a psychology perspective, in terms of, where the Enneagram stems from and things like that. Yep.
So more psychology versus
More
sociology.
psychology than sociology, yeah. But I mean, I think that they'll go hand in hand. You can really understand, once you understand kind of like the psychology behind why human beings behave the certain way that they do, it can be looked at into, like, I've used the Enneagram in, like, people have a culture, right? So, like, if you've got a business and you've got all 8 types in your business, that's a culture. And that's kind of from a sociology perspective, a community perspective of a certain type of individuals. So you can make it larger, but initially it's going to start from the psychology perspective.
That's good. From a psychological perspective is where this is stemming from, according
Correct.
to what she's sharing today. I see you, Candace. And speaking of Candace, she's actually going to be graduating tomorrow with the Kim Jacobs Show, training on how to start your own virtual show from scratch. And this woman is a powerhouse. She's battled cancer, had a child pass away. Her story is riveting, and I definitely don't want you to miss the episode with her receiving her graduation certificate on starting her own show from scratch. All right. Hey, Candace, glad to have you on.
Fabulous. Congratulations.
All right. All right. So let's see other comments. I saw some paragraph. I saw a paragraph somewhere. So let me see where that might be. Oh, Lady Justine Hillier said, I think that most people in general want to be good. So when I see people who don't, it kind of puzzles me. Can you speak to that for a minute, Laura?
Yeah, she's right in the sense that, yes, in general, we do want to believe that most people are good. It goes back to when people aren't good, what's really happening, in that situation when they're behaving badly. Again, it goes back to those core motivations. What's their core fear in this situation? What are they running from when they're behaving? Even if they're behaving badly, typically there's something behind why they're behaving badly, and so it's really just basically understanding that. But I do think in general, when you're trying to set boundaries and you're trying to live with integrity, in general, I do like to believe that people are doing the best that they can. And it's not that, I mean, people do bad things, and yes, people could do better. But I want to be in a place for me to believe that people are doing the best that they can. And it's, my job to kind of help come alongside them, to kind of guide them into being better at who they are, in a sense.
That's really good feedback. So you have a baseline that every person starts with the baseline of good. This is good. Now, whether you go above the trajectory or below the line, that then is kind of on you. And
Absolutely. And we're, like I said, we're human beings. We're gonna fall, a little bit below average of our, how we are as a person, and we're gonna fall above that. But the empowerment stems from knowing that and knowing when you're doing that, and helping people understand that so they can have better control of their life and the relationships around them, rather than letting their actions be fueled by how they're feeling in the moment.
That's really good, because a lot of times, sometimes people, I don't know if it's a mental block. I don't know what it is. That's why maybe you can help with this. People don't always see when they are falling too far beneath the radar, and that other help is needed outside of just a conversation or someone trying to consider your personality type. You need help, dude or woman or whatever. there's help needed, you know?
Exactly. And it happens oftentimes kind of really subtly. This is what I call in a lot of the leadership trainings that I do. These are micro issues. These are little micro expressions that sometimes we just don't pay attention to, that we don't really recognize, that is creeping us down a path that is not really good for us long term. And especially when you're talking about trauma and like how trauma impacts us, and how our body reacts to various different traumas. It can be, that's why we call them blind spots. They really are blind. We're not used to seeing what we don't want to see. But that's why some of this work is really important, and it's helpful for leaders to really even understand this, so they can be that catalyst to have sometimes crucial conversations with the people that they're working with, or the people that you love in your relationships. It's really hard to kind of sometimes have these conversations, say, I'm really concerned about you. I'm noticing X, Y, and Z. But if you don't know what you're noticing, and you don't really, all you're at is, I don't understand why you're doing this. You know what I mean? Why can't you just do this? Instead, now we really create some roadblocks into getting people to be on a path of, more resiliency in whatever's going on in their world.
Well, you said a lot in this first half already. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to continue to talk with this very enlightening individual, Laura, and find out more about her perspectives on building deeper relationships. We'll be right back, everyone, right after this commercial break. I'm waiting for you, Mackenzie, backstage to go to commercial.
Hi, I'm Kim Jacobs, the Managing Director of the Charlotte, North Carolina chapter of eWomen Network. I am so excited that you stopped to watch this video. I've got good news for you. You've just discovered an international network of women entrepreneurs who are committed to helping you achieve, succeed, and prosper. We're on a mission here to help 1 million women entrepreneurs each achieve $1 million in annual revenue. Here at eWomen Network, we have a complete success system that supports you every step of the way in building and growing your business. You being here right now is no accident. We're supposed to know about you. We want to meet you to find out how we can help you, as well as learn about what you have to offer. With over 500,000 women connected through 118 chapters across the United States, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom, you are never alone. If this is resonating with you, please go to ewomennetwork.com/Charlotte. Notice too my contact information. I invite you to reach out to me and to check out our upcoming in-person and online events. I'm really looking forward to introducing you to our special community.
All right, everyone, we are back and we are talking with Laura about how to build deeper relationships. I want to put her contact information up, even though, I put it already in the comment section. I still want to pop it up here on screen for you to be able to know how to stay connected with her. Definitely give her a call at 423-919-8909. Again, that's 423-919-8909 for our podcast listeners on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of your, wherever you download your audio devices. That's the number you want to stay connected with Laura. And you can also go to infiniteclaritycc.com, infiniteclaritycc.com. All right. So now, Laura, when we're talking from a family perspective, I think especially on this show, how people balance their lives, you have a lot going on with your family over here, right?
Yes.
How do you balance all of this, your family?
Well, I think it's about kind of just working on, managing time. And I'm more about, I think what I've learned over the years is that quality time is much more important to me than quality of time. So, my husband and I moved to northeastern Tennessee about 4 years ago, and that kind of moved us away from much of our family that you're seeing here, which was really hard. But at the same time, when we go back and visit, I feel sometimes a lot closer to my family because we just get to spend more time with them. So I think in terms of when I'm looking at balancing, family life, I really do think about quality time and also being present, making sure that you're, spending the time where you're at, when you're there, and kind of focusing your attention on the people that you're with, rather than, it's easy to get distracted in life. It's easy to be on our phones. It's easy to kind of do different things that can really distract us from the relationships that are really valuable and important to us. So I think it's important to just kind of look at your relationships differently and basically kind of determine what you need within them.
Beautiful. And you're saying being present in the moment. I know in a book that I wrote, Extreme Balance Makeover, I talk about being here now. So
Yeah.
when I'm having, for example, my family meeting with my children, I'm like, okay, we're putting everything down for a minute. Let's talk about the week. What's going to be happening coming up in your week? What are you standing in the need of that we can all, maybe you don't even have the answer or the solution, but someone else at this table, meaning the children that I'm meeting with, my own children I'm talking about, they may have a solution for you. And in actuality, this week, one of my daughter, I only have one daughter, but my daughter was preparing for some state testing. Well, my son, who graduated from Chapel Hill, was like, oh, you know what? I want to share with you this site that I think it will help you significantly in helping you kind of self-teach yourself some of these concepts. She had never heard of the site. He offered the solution, and guess what? It was a beautiful outcome for her.
What a wonderful thing. And that's what I said. That's what I love about learning and having compassion for different people, different people's strengths, different people's knowledge base, different people's experiences, because it can literally help us grow if we're willing to tap into and slow down and build that relationship. The minute we think we know it all and we got it all handled okay is really kind of, yes, everything really comes crashing down. I'm a big believer in supporting yourself with great people around you, because it really can build you up and give you resources and support that you never really realized that you had. And that's a prime example of, giving your daughter an opportunity to expand and building that connection, because someone knows something that she didn't know that now she knows.
Yeah, great. All right. So with this family, we didn't deep dive enough into it. I want to pull it back up because I see over in the corner 3 dogs. So tell me about your dogs.
Yeah, so we have 3 dogs. I have a 14-year-old toy poodle, Abby, and then we have a 4-year-old mini golden doodle, Leo, and then we just rescued, she'll be 2 in June this year, Ginger, who is a mini Cavapoo. So they're kind of the spunk that keeps us on our toes primarily. And then my husband and I, we have got 5 grandchildren, and my husband has 3 adult children, and then I've got my parents in there. My father is a retired Army veteran, and my mom there, and so yeah, we love to do things. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're just and I think being active and being a part of that is really fun. Finding things that really help you balance life, not just, with your work world, but find activities and things that you like to do, especially together. It doesn't always have to be together, but like my husband and I ballroom dance together. And that is something that keeps us kind of, also, we get to practice and following. And I swear dancing has so many life lessons in it and believe me, anybody can dance, so if me and my husband can dance, anybody can dance. So yeah. So
I want to learn how to salsa dance one day.
Even that, so much fun. It's a part of what kind of keeps us connected. But even individually for yourself, like finding things that bring you energy, bring you joy, bring you happiness. That's so important for us to really be able to tap into for those moments, like we talked about, when we're dipping down and when we're feeling less energized, we're feeling more emotional, we're feeling flooded with whatever is happening in our world. We need to find our support system, activities, things that we need to do to kind of help us pull us out of that. And if we don't know that, then it's really hard to kind of create a sense of balance. We're going to always find ourselves kind of teetering on one side or the other.
That's right. Yeah, this is good. So having you don't manage your family with this personality testing, do you? Because they're
No.
out of here, Laura.
No, I don't. But I think it's helpful still. I mean, like you can use it as families. I think it does help families, especially, you know, moms trying to balance everything that they're balancing. It's helpful to understand. You know, I mean, kids are growing, so it's really hard to they're still developing their personalities. So typically we don't do the Enneagram assessment until, you know, children are much more mature to do that. But you can kind of tell, you can kind of know once you know the system, you can kind of see little budding peaks of personality types in your children. But it does give you a bigger range of set of tools for how better to communicate that with them. Again, because your child isn't going to think the way that you're thinking. You know, your husband doesn't think the way that, or your spouse doesn't think the way that you do. So just giving yourself a better range of seeing people in a different light and then guiding you to react a little bit differently to them can change. It can be a game changer for how you build those connections and those relationships within the people that you love, especially family.
I know one thing. I'm learning so much today from our guest, Laura, and I'm hoping that you all are as well. I can tell by your feedback and your comments that you're gleaning a lot as well. And we're not going to formally take a commercial break, but I do want to take a moment to let you all know that I have a son. Well, I have 3 children, actually, that battle cystic fibrosis, a lung disease. So they kick it in the head every day, and they're ambassadors for like CF Foundation, Cystic Fibrosis Foundations. They helped raise like over $2.2 million last year as ambassadors. And so actually these two they're the 2 that spoke before Congress and everything that have been battling this. And then I have one son who he went on his own weight loss journey. His name is Ivan. He's this size at first, and now he's this size. And he is a major inspiration to people that are battling CF. And right now he's an ambassador for the
Hey, my name is Ivan, and I live with cystic fibrosis. I was diagnosed at 17 years old, and I had a hard time accepting the fact that this was my new normal. In a split second, I had pills I needed to take, treatments I had to do, and statistics that weren't favorable. So I decided to take CF head on. I became an ambassador and advocated for the disease. I took my treatments regularly, and I try to be an inspiration for my siblings. If you also live with cystic fibrosis, I know it can be hard, but what you're doing is also inspiring other people. I'd love to hear about some of your personal victories. Please share them below this video.
So Ivan has actually been charged with, on behalf of the Boomer Esiason Foundation, to help raise $4,000 to help with finding a cure for cystic fibrosis. Now, Boomer Esiason, you know, he's an ESPN commentator and so forth. And so his son, Gunnar Esiason, also battles cystic fibrosis and is making some major strides in his own life. So I wanted to just put this link in the comment section, which I already did. And right now, Ivan is down to the wire. So that link, do I have it there? Yeah. Okay. The p2p.onecause.com, fight with BF, CF with BEF, all of that right there, that link. And I know if you're on the audio podcast, you're going to probably need to come over here and see it on the social media. But make sure, if you would, send any donation amount over to support his cause. It'd be greatly appreciated. And as his mom, I'm trying to help him reach his goal. Is that fair? All right. And he's also one of the new youngest authors in a book called Healthopedia as well. And I'm just really proud of him. It's like an encyclopedia book of health, and he's the youngest author in that book. So I wanted to, instead of going to a commercial break, take a moment to give a commercial break for Ivan Jacobs. All right.
Oh.
Why do you think, Laura, that dealing with first responders with this Enneagram concept is helpful as well?
I think it's really helpful in terms of just building good leadership skills and understanding the people that are on your team. So different people have different strategies, especially first responders. And so it's really important from a leadership role and a leadership perspective to really understand again, what's motivating those behaviors for why first responders are behaving and reacting in certain ways that they're doing, especially with the role that they play in traumatic situations. I mean, they're on high alert all the time for the most part, and it gives them kind of a different approach to better understanding them, so they can help them return down to baseline, which is going to help them overall with their health and wellness for longer term. And if I can just say, I'm really passionate about helping first responders and building their health and wellness. And just for your audience to know, the third week of May is actually First Responders Appreciation Week. And so if you can, please thank those first responders and do what you can. I am holding an event in Greenville, Tennessee at the Hackler Event Center. And any first responder is welcome to stop by, get some free food. There's going to be lovely local businesses that have offered their support and are giving free door prizes and things like that, just to support them and thank them for the services that they do, because they see us at our worst and we don't oftentimes get to see them at their worst, but they do. They're human beings. They have feelings and they struggle as well. And so I just want to have that opportunity for us as a community to support them.
Now, when you say that, remember this streams in a bunch of countries. So what is the name of that place, and in what city is that?
Sure. So it's in Greenville, Tennessee. But I mean, First Responders Appreciation Week is all over the world. So wherever you're at locally, I just encourage you to support in any way that you can. The third week of May, the week of the 20th, is First Responders Appreciation Week. But if you're more local to me in the Tri-Cities area, in Greenville, Tennessee, at Hackler Hall in Greenville, it's the event center from 11:30. Hackler Hall, yep, from 11:30 to 1:30. We are hosting a First Responders Appreciation event. All first responders are welcome to stop by anytime during that time. Get some free food, get some resources, and we're just happy and here to support you in your efforts as you just help us in the community every day.
Awesome. So everybody, during the third week of May, and if you're watching this and it's February or March or April or June or December and you're watching a replay of it, then obviously wait till the next time, the third week.
Yes.
Because sometimes I love to replay this episode, so you may be watching it at a different time. But I do want you to know that the third week of May is First Responder Appreciation Week. Make sure you take advantage of supporting those that respond to all of the different situations, life issues. I know in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, recently, I was at a red light and I saw about 300-400 cop cars, medic buses, helicopters, ambulance, fire truck. I personally was so overwhelmed, and I'm gifted at trying to catch a moment on a camera. I could not think to pull out my phone because I was like, I'm locked in. I don't know what's happening. I was overwhelmed by the situation. But come to find out that it was a tragedy in our community, and and I do want to just put this up, 4 of the police officers, which are U.S. Marshal, and you have here Thomas Weeks, Sam Pelosi, Alden Elliott, and Joshua Iyer. They lost their lives in dealing with this situation, and I am praying for their families, and some are being laid to rest at this point in our community. But that's a tragic loss because they are expecting to go back to their family after just doing a regular day of work.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I'm a big proponent of, and now you think about, that's a tragedy, but that's a ripple effect tragedy. It's impacting not just the community that they served, but their families and their families' families. And so, and that
family, because now they're like, well, what? I just go to serve something and I might get killed that day, and they're just doing their job,
Yes. And that happens more often than sometimes we really realize. And so I appreciate you kind of sharing that and bringing attention and awareness to that. It's something that we all need to kind of just be aware of and help support in general.
That
heavy stuff. Yes. It's
but I say it and put it in there, but it's hard to just whoop.
Yes, yes. But the beauty of it is, that I really want to kind of put out there is the resilience of this. So there, historically we were trained to believe that our brain was kind of stagnant and it wasn't, we didn't have the capacity to change it. And research is showing us more and more that we do. And so with these tragic events and with trauma, whatever trauma it is that you're going on in your life, there is really hope out there, and we can find ways to kind of work through that and survive those, traumatic situations. And we don't have to constantly feel on edge, and some of those PTSD, post-traumatic stress symptoms, that kind of accumulate over time from being in those stressful environments. There is really a lot of hope and resources out there that can really bring on some balance in people's life, even if you live in a high stress work environment.
Yes, yes. And I see your comment and your prayers, Lady Justine Hilliard. I see your comments out there. Let me put that back up. Hold on for a second. There you go. I see the prayers as well. And congratulations to your son, Ivan. I see that too. So thank you all so much for your comments and your prayers for those fallen officers. Listen, you talk a lot about family, and I know we're going to be coming to a close soon, but I want to hear how you say that you really want, and I'll read the quote. You said you believe in creating a ripple effect of love, compassion, and connection. That's with individuals, families, and communities. So just talk to us about, for a moment here, how do you think those deeper relationships can be formed in those instances?
I think it starts, the ripple effect starts with yourself. It really begins, with your internal work inside, loving yourself, knowing that you're good enough, knowing that your self-worth is not negotiable, that, we are loved for who we are, as we are, in a sense, and kind of sitting in that truth allows you to have some compassion for yourself. When you build empathy, sympathy, compassion, and vulnerability for yourself, you have the greater capacity to see that in others and to give that to others. And that begins the ripple effect to bring on more empathy, sympathy, compassion, vulnerability to your community. And it just goes on and on from there. So I really do think that the more compassion we have for ourselves and the more we begin to explore ourselves, it gives us a better understanding of others, which builds greater communities and a greater world in general. And that's, what I love about this show is bringing that balance to the world, one household at a time. It's one person at a time. So don't ever think that you can't make a difference, because one person really can.
Wow. You're masterful at this. I thought you were like, oh, not really. I'm kind of nervous. Girl, trick me out over here on this show. This is awesome information. And it sounds like it all begins with us individually, and whatever help we need to make sure that we are bringing better value to the world and the people around us that we're interacting with, then we don't have to worry about trying to change anybody else. Do you, for real. People say, do you, right?
Exactly. That energy is just going to emulate out of you, and that, even from a Christian perspective, that is really what God wants us to do. God wants us to be that, if you do take it from a Christian perspective, we all have those 9 qualities. Those are 9 images of God, in that sense. And that just emanates out in the world. That's the goodness in the world that we're putting out there, to really make some great changes when we collaborate together as a community and as a world.
Well, I know I'm smiling so hard. I feel like I'm at a wedding and my cheeks are burning. And I'm like, this is just so beautiful. So really what my takeaway is today is that I don't have to worry about trying to change anybody else. Just continue to operate in how God created me to be, and just continue to just pour that out. And wherever it's supposed to stick, it will stick. And wherever it's rejected or triggered, then I just might need to go back to the drawing board on that particular instance and learn how I can consider their personality type and operate more in their wheelhouse, right?
Absolutely. You said it beautifully. I couldn't have said it better myself. That is fabulous. If that is one takeaway that you can get from this, then, I've done my job.
Okay. And you all feel free in the studio audience to put your takeaways as well. Any comments, any thank yous for what we've learned today, make sure that you do that. And I do want to ask you all in the studio audience, if any episode of the Kim Jacobs Show is a blessing to your household, I consider this a ministry in my personal opinion, because I believe we are bringing balance to the world. And there may be like a missing piece of a puzzle that you've been struggling with and dealing with. And you're like, thank you, Kim. for bringing Laura. Thank you, Kim, for bringing all of these guests that you bring on Monday through Friday. Please make sure you take a moment to pour back into the broadcast, partner with us. And you can do that through $Kimjacobsinc on PayPal. On PayPal, it's paypal.me/KimJacobsinc or Venmo at The Kim Jacobs Show. So we have Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo, whatever way works best. But we always send out shout outs to say thank you to our partners, because some of you in the community are partnering with us, and it does make a tremendous difference. So thank you all that have already been pouring into the show. Closing comment, Laura. Can you believe this?
I am just so thankful to have this opportunity to talk to you today and talk to your audience. And I just really want people to know that, you know, they have value and they have worth, and their perspective means something. And just the more compassion we can bring to the world will create more balance, and the better we can be as individuals and as a community.
Can I carry you everywhere I go? Gosh, you're changed. You could just be like, okay, hold on. I know we're having conflict. Calm down. I have Laura here to mediate this situation, okay? And so maybe it's on my end that this is the reason this is happening. So I take full accountability. Let's bring Laura in and see what's what.
That's right. You know, it is good. And when we take that perspective, when we take a step back, we can oftentimes see things with so much more clarity, and that clarity will guide us into a different direction that we never thought possible. So yeah, it's great.
I feel better today just because I encountered you. So my day is wonderful just because of Laura. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Justine Hilliard's day must be better too, because she said this was very informative show today. Thanks so much to both of you.
Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome. All right, everybody. That's today's episode. We will see you Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on The Kim Jacobs Show. Thank you, Mackenzie, backstage, for helping today as well. Everybody, God bless you and have a great day. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay backstage for me. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of The Kim Jacobs Show, and for being in the virtual studio audience. Your presence truly does make a difference, and I look forward to you bringing your friends and family to join you in the virtual studio audience Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you, and make it a great day.